I saw the sample of these beauties nearly a year ago now, and being a massive rucksack nerd, I've been so excited to tell you about them for ages. It's the new Blue Ice range. We've got the 45 litre Warthog, also comes in a 30, and the new Stache Ice 38 litre. So one of the main reasons I think these guys need explaining is the fact that two quite similar sized rucksacks, nearly the same literage. The weights are pretty similar as well, so what's the difference? Now when you start messing around with them, playing with them and using them in the hills, they do feel quite different, and I love both of them. I thought I'd just tell you why. So I'm going to start with the Warthog. So the Warthog has been in Blue Ice's range for the best part of 10 years, and being a Chamonix-based climbing brand, they give it a lot of thought to where it's going to perform and how it works in the mountains. So it's really noticeable with all their gear that they're really designing it with alpine climbing in mind, but so much of that equates to particularly Scottish winter climbing and things like that we do in the UK. Now this pack in particular, I really don't think would be out of place just cragging in the Peak District up on the gritstone or limestone, whatever, but I don't think that's probably the case with the Stache. Now I'll come on to why in a bit. So this time round, the Warthog is Blue Ice's total workhorse. It's incredibly durable while still being incredibly light. The 45 litre that I've got here comes in at 760 grams, and the 30 I think is 660, so not a lot in it. Still very light for a bag of this size, but also it's super burly. The first and most obvious thing about the Warthog is the fabric. Look at that. That is a high tenacity nylon TPU laminate, bit of a mouthful, but what that means is this material is waterproof. That's why they've used a roll top lid, so it keeps your gear really, really protected in those really bad weather conditions. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's a fully waterproof bag, so obviously there's seams and things like that, and there's a zip, but it's going to keep stuff drier than nearly everything else out there on the market. So not only is it incredibly weatherproof, it's also incredibly tough. So Blue Ice think that's one of the toughest fabrics they've ever used, and that's particularly good if you end up hauling it. So imagine you're climbing in the Alps or even in Scotland and you're trying routes that are really pretty hard and you don't want this on your back. You might well drag it up the cliff with you, and that's going to stand up to a beating a lot better than a lot of those super light rucksacks out there. But even though they've tried to keep it incredibly simple, it's also got loads of cool features which are all removable or adaptable. Such as simple things as the compression straps on the side. They're fully removable, you can change them round if you want, so really easy to make it exactly how you like it. And a really simple thing that I really like and don't know why no one's ever done before is the fact that this little strap that nearly always flaps around in the wind because it might just have one of those sort of hairband style bungees to tuck it into that it'll definitely come out of. They've sort of sealed it on there so it's dead easy to grab, even with big gloves, cinch it tight, and it's never going to be flapping around and just lives there nice and neatly. So that's a perfect place for putting like a roll mat or something like that, or if you're carrying skis, they can go on the side as well. And speaking of adaptability, you get here these daisy chains running down the front of the pack, so you can clip things to it if you want, but you also get some bungee cords so you can thread that back and forth. Really good place to keep like your crampons or even a helmet. And of course Blue Ice do an amazing helmet bungee which you can attach there so you can shove your helmet in if you wish. Of course it can carry 2 ice axes no problem, or just the one if you want, whether technical tools or a straighter PLA. The toggles feel really good quality and easy to do even with big gloves on. One of the most innovative and coolest features I think of this bag is the rope strap that comes over the top. So once again, this is removable, of course, if you don't want to use it, and there's a nice little pocket for it to live in here, again, if it's in the way, but it has its own clip. Now, while that can feel overkill, because it can clip in there, you can hold your rope really nicely, that also doubles up really nicely as somewhere to stow your rucksack when you're on the belays. So when you get to a belay, I nearly always clip my rucksack to the anchor I've made, and often it's too high or it's too low. With this one, you can clip it in and you can adjust the length so it's absolutely perfect. So while it's obviously not for climbing, apparently it is rated to 2 kilonewtons, so you shouldn't be worrying about your bag ripping off. On the side of the bag, there's this 2-way laminated water resistant zip, which is really handy if you want to get something out that you've left at the bottom of the bag, some food or a jacket, something like that. But also I know a lot of people in the Alps really like to use this zip to have a rope coming out there if they're doing crevasse rescue or something like that. Of course, it features a really handy pocket here to keep your essentials in, head torch, wallet, keys, stuff like that, with the key clip so you can access it without having to undo the roll top every time. I actually really like the back system for a bag like this as well, because I've used waterproof bags in the past and sometimes they can be incredibly clammy and sweaty on your back, sort of fine in winter with loads of layers on. But particularly in a t-shirt, maybe in summer, it can feel pretty grim. So this is really nice. They've got this 3D mesh back system, which feels nice and fresh, even though the rest of the bag is waterproof fabrics. The waist belt is incredibly simple. It's just a single webbing here with no padding on it. It's thick enough that it does feel like it takes the load really nicely. And also that's removable as well if you wish. The sternum strap again is nice and simple and works well and slides up and down so you can adjust it just how you like. And internally there's quite a simple frame that can take the weight nicely onto your hips. And of course you can remove that if you wish to make it into a super light bag, or you could roll it up and shove it in a bigger duffel style bag. So what I found while using this bag is it's 45 litre, right? But I've used other 45 litre bags and I think this can take quite a lot more than that, because this roll top closure can come up so high. I reckon I can get over 50 litres worth of kit in there. It might not be ideal where it's like that, but usually you're walking in, say you're going for a bivvy and then you're gonna climb a route the next day. So when the next day you won't have much in it, but walking in doesn't matter if it's sticking up that high. So sort of the perfect bag for overnight climbs in the Alps and things like that. Because even though it's tough, it's burly, it's still incredibly lightweight and feels really nice to climb in. So why wouldn't you use it for all your activities? So moving on to the Stache Ice 38, you can see looks pretty similar. We'll see you in a bit, Warthog. Please stop. However, it feels quite different. So the Stache Ice came about because they've had great success with the Stache 50 litre and they do a Stache UL sort of 24 litre. So why not fill that void? So this is 38 litres. It weighs in at 670 grams. So incredibly light and really packable, but it's got such a huge feature set that they reckon it embarrasses the competition with all the features for a bag of this weight. The face fabric is incredibly light but incredibly durable, 210 denier ripstop with some really fancy other words around it which I don't quite understand, but it means it's really strong and it's really light. It shares quite a few similar features to the Warthog, so it's got those really nice compression straps I talked about and loved, really good ice axe carry, and once again everything is removable if you wish. Once again, it's got that two-way laminated zip so you can access your goodies if you need them, and the handy zip pocket with the key clip. But then there's a few things that make it quite different. So it's got this sort of, I don't know what to call this. It is a lid, but it's not one of those big bulging lids. So it closes up really nice. You can pull it nice and taut. There's a much lighter fabric at the top with a seamless closure, which pulls in super, super tight. So you get no gap here. With this lid over the top, you can seal it right up if the weather turns. A couple of different options of where you can put your hook loop closure system on the top, depending on how much gear is in there, whether it's bulging or it's nearly empty. But this doubles up as a really good, really secure rope carry if the bag is completely full. And that leads me on to one of the coolest features of the bag. That's this big pleated dump pocket at the front here. It's obviously been designed with crampons in mind and taking really, really sharp objects. So you can put your ice screws in there, but I also think putting a water bottle in there would be quite handy as well, because sometimes it's annoying having to access everything from inside. They've doubled up the burliness here so it can take those sharper objects. It's 420 denier face fabric, so super tough. You can dump it in there, really useful. And when it's empty and you're probably on the route, it sits really flat and flush so it doesn't get in the way at all while you're climbing. The back system is super simple but really well designed. It's got that 3D mesh on the shoulders and the hip belt, and it actually feels incredibly comfy to carry even though it's such a lightweight bag. And I think where this really differs to the Warthog is if you're trying the hardest route you can, but you've got to take a bag with you, this would feel much more nimble and nicer to climb with on your back. The attention to detail around the hip belt is really quite impressive because they've actually got their webbing coming down from the shoulder straps to live on the inside of the hip belt. Now that's not an accident. They've done that on purpose because most people carrying a bag like that and when they're trying hard will hoop their waist belts around the back, and that means it sits nice and flush and does that really easily. The waist belt and padding is so thin and flexible, I even think if you left it done up while climbing with a harness on, it really wouldn't get in the way. Once again, that back panel is totally removable, and that is where it becomes one of my favourite tricks because this bag is so light and so flexible. I can imagine walking into a really big route with a friend who's got maybe a bigger bag like the Warthog or something like that. We take this out and I haven't got the back system in it. I would then roll this bag up or shove it in the bottom of the bigger bag so the leader can climb with no bag. The second can have only a bit of extra weight, sort of around 500 grams. That's like half a litre of water weight in your rucksack. And then the second carries the bigger bag and the leader gets to be nice and free. And then the joy of that is when you're walking back out, it might be a big walk in, say you've gone to the shelter stone or the Ben or something like that. You've got a nice big carrying bag to get everything back down to the car. And of course, Blue Ice being Blue Ice, they've thought about everything to do with the alpine environment. So a lot of people when they're climbing in the Alps will be skiing into their approach. So inside the bag, they've got 3 little pockets, which are really useful. One for your shovel, one for your probe, and one for the head of your shovel. So if you are doing avalanche safety crevasse rescue gear with you. You've got that all nice and handy. You can access it without getting in the way of everything else. And that shovel head carry also doubles up as somewhere where you'd put your water bladder if you were using such a system. So like I said at the beginning, 2 new bags that sort of similar volume and similar weight. What's the difference? Hopefully you can understand there that I think they could be treated quite differently. And I mean, look at this. When this is totally full to the top up here, it's quite a bigger bag than that. You can fill it to there. So picture this. I imagine we walk into this route, one of us carrying this, one of us is carrying this. We roll that up, shove it in the bottom of that one, do the climb, and then when we leave, oh, nearly fell over, we can get them back out again and walk out. Also, I think I'd probably try and use that in the Alps this summer, fingers crossed, if the weather plays ball, for overnight climbs where you might be bivvying at the base or on the route. I'll get quite a lot more gear in there as well. And also, if I do end up hauling it, I think it could stand up to it quite a lot better. However, if I'm climbing my hardest route and I know it's going to be on my back, I think I'd choose the Stache Ice 38 because it just feels so nimble, so close to my back. It's really smooth and easy to climb with. And what better to have on your back when you know you're trying your hardest pitches. And like I mentioned before, I really don't think this is a bag to come cragging at Kerber with or something like that because, yeah, it's very much thinking about the alpine and multi-pitch. So there's some small little features which keep it nice and light. And also the top closure, it works really well, but it can be a bit faffy if you're in and out every 2 minutes. Whereas I think the Warthog, of course, is an alpine bag, but I think it would work really well while cragging in the Peak Streak. Super burly, easy to dump everything in, and you can overload it if you really need. So I hope you find that useful. We've got loads more videos and reviews like this over on our YouTube channel, so maybe consider subscribing. If you get a chance to come in the shop and try these on, and all the other packs we've got, particularly from Blue Ice, there's loads to talk about. Try them all on with some weight bags and have your own adventures.